This episode is brought to you by Americas Rehab Campus. Get on the road to recovery with the best rehab in beautiful Arizona. Dial 1-833-272-7342. That's 1-833-ARC-REHAB.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned in to the ARCast.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the ARCast. My name is Booda, and I'm in the studio today with two people. I'm really excited to have them in here. I'm going to introduce my co-host first. You guys probably remember him from episode 34. He was a jail liaison out in Nogales. We are now blessed to have him working with us. He is a community liaison here at ARC. Give it up to my brother Martin. I don't know where that donkey came from. There you go. There you go. It's right there. All right, we got that. And then secondly, the next person I'm very grateful that he's here right now. He comes from Hope Inc. Sounds like a record label. I like
right,
it.
Yeah.
He's straight from Hope Inc. He came here, man, and we're very blessed to have him. Give it up to our brother, Chris.
Yeah.
So how's it going, guys?
It's going. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. How was the ride down here? Where'd you come from, bro?
I live here in town.
Oh, you do live here in town? Oh, okay. I know you traveled all the way from
Nogales, beautiful border town.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you mind the driving, bro? Like coming every single day?
I don't mind the driving. Well, I don't come every single day, but I don't mind the driving. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, it's a beautiful day, and just excited to get you in here, man. Martin was telling me that you have a pretty cool story and stuff like that. Are you in recovery, brother?
I am.
You are? How much time you got?
Just over 8 years now. So,
over 8 years.
Yeah, almost 9 pretty soon. So I actually met this guy in the Salvation Army in rehab. That's how we connected. We were in rehab together.
Wow. Oh wow. Okay, so back then. Yeah. Is it about the same amount of time for you, bro?
Yeah, kind of about the same amount of time.
8 years, man. What a blessing, bro.
And it's wild how our stories kind of entangled too, because he went back to Nogales. I stayed here in town. I started working for Hope. He was at Wellness Connections, and like he would call me all the time, and like we'd go back and forth because we're both new to the behavioral health system, so we didn't really understand it much, but we kind of went back and forth and talked to each other, and then all of a sudden our companies merged together.
Wow.
So then we were co-workers for a while. It was just wild how we just kind of stayed entwined there for a while.
It's crazy how God works, man. Sometimes things like that. I've been listening. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that Cat Williams interview that he did with the Shake Shack Club. I've been listening to that.
Taking over the internet.
Dude, it has been, but he talks a lot about faith in there and just how things work and how things work themselves out. It just made me think it's crazy. Kind of the same type of thing. I mean, it's a way different story with how you and I got connected, but you coming through and working here, and now we get to work closer together, which is super cool, and just the connections of the people that have come into our lives over the years just in this field and being able to help people, man. It's a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
All right, man. So typical fashion of the ARCast, this podcast in particular is to spread hope for people, for those who are in recovery and for those maybe family members, like we were just talking about that book, that may not understand it and just want a little bit more of an understanding of it. So we go from the beginning, brother, if you don't mind. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're good.
So you said you were born and raised here in Tucson, Arizona, right?
No, I'm actually from Oracle, Arizona.
Biosphere.
Yeah, pretty much. Just, a little small town, you know what I mean? It's chill.
How old are you?
37.
37. Oh, dang. Okay, so we're around the same age. I remember being a little kid when that movie Biodome came out. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I was like, yo, this is in Arizona. That was like the coolest thing for me to go visit that.
Yeah. But that's not how it is, because my dad actually, because the mine shut down, and that was kind of like a big hit for us in that community over there, because we went from a real big community to everybody leaving, because when the mine shut down, everybody dipped out.
Really?
So my dad actually went and worked at the Biosphere for a while. And so like I was familiar with the place. Like I would go in there. He was like maintenance and stuff, so I'd kick it with him sometimes. And like my dad was always there for me, even from when I was little. So I'd go over there. So when I seen the movie, I was like, that's not even what it's like.
That's funny. Yeah. See, you could probably fill me in on that, because I always thought it was like Fort Knox, like it was locked down. No one's allowed to go in there. Like it's. I went and visited it one time, and I remember they walked us through like the environments and stuff. But I thought that was like a special occasion. Like no one was allowed to go in there.
No, like people took tours all the time, but it was cool because like with my dad being maintenance, I could go up on the top, and we went on the catwalks and stuff because he'd be doing maintenance. So it was chill. I got to see a lot of things that were like behind the scenes stuff. So
that's cool. What did he do over there when he started working there?
He was maintenance. So it was like he was maintenance. My uncle, which was his cousin, was a mechanic over there. And then my other uncle, he was an electrician. Small towns, you know what I mean?
Man. So from the age you were born to what time did you leave Oracle?
I was 28 when they sent me to the Salvation Army.
28? So you stayed there pretty much your whole life?
I would commute to town to work. I worked construction from basically when I was 18.
Here in Tucson?
Yeah. So I would just commute every day in.
Oh, man. And how was it growing up out there? Did you have any siblings? Were you an only child?
Yeah, no, I got 2 brothers. I got an older brother and a younger brother, and it was chill. Like, I got a bunch of cousins, family out there, stuff like that. It was like, it's different because, like, I even tell my kids, like, they couldn't even wrap their heads around it. You know what I mean? Like, we would go hunting. Like, we'd be like 10 to 15. We would, go out hunting by ourselves. We had like guns, bows. Like, I would go to the
Wow.
biosphere, and it was cool because my dad would be doing maintenance, and then he would drop me off at the gate. And then I would go out hunting while he was working. And then I would just come back to the gate after work.
That's cool.
He'd scoop me back up.
It's a whole different world out there, man. That's really cool. So your mom and dad, were they both together? Like, are they married or anything?
They were, and then they divorced when I was like probably like 13.
13.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay, so you were going to school. You did pretty much your whole academic years in Oracle, right? Is that where you went to school?
They only have up to middle school, and then high school you have to come into Tucson, or it was Samuel, but Samuel was going through some struggles at the time.
Okay.
So I opted to go into Tucson, but I ended up getting kicked out pretty much every single year.
Man, and how were you in school? I guess that kind of answers my question. Were you a good student?
I didn't do school at all. School was for extracurricular activities. You know what I mean? Like, that's all school was for. So I ended up getting kicked out a lot, though, and I went to Aztec Middle College. So it's like the high school for Pima Community College.
Yeah.
And so I did all my stuff there, and I kind of just slammed it out because I was going to the Aztec, I was going to Project More, I was doing Primavera, and I just did them all at the same time.
Okay.
And so I just got like all my schooling done in 6 months, 7 months.
Oh, man. All right.
And was that a high school diploma or was it a GED? Yeah, high school.
Got a high school diploma. It was kind of funny too because my teacher, she'd always trip out on me. You know what I mean? Like all the time. And so when she told me, "Hey, you got it. You graduated," and I said, "Cool." I said, "So I'm done." And she's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "So you just got to come. You'll get your diploma on this day." I said, "No, I'm cool." I said, "I'm leaving." She's like, "You still got a few days of school left." I was like, "You told me I'm done." Like, and I left. I never went back. I didn't get my diploma. Now that she ended up mailing it to my dad.
That's great.
I was like, I don't need that. Like,
wow. Man, that's a trip. Did you get it on time, like with the age you were supposed to, or did you?
It was like a month after I was supposed to.
Okay.
So that's why she was saying that I needed to wait so that I could go walk and do my stuff with the other kids at the regular time. You know what I mean? And I was like, "Nah, I'm chill."
You didn't do sports. You didn't do nothing like that. You got your diploma.
Well, I did do football my freshman year. So
you did do football?
I did, yeah. And then I got right after that is when I got the boot. You know what I mean?
Okay. So the grades and stuff weren't up to par. You weren't able to continue.
No, I kept getting busted basically for having weed. So kept booting me for the year.
And do you think, looking back at it now, do you think the relationship with your mother and father, like with them separating at 13, do you think that played an effect on you?
It did. Like it was kind of just different because so my mom never drank, never did nothing. But when they got divorced, she started drinking, and so she would be out, and then she worked, and then she did all this other stuff. She was like, I don't hold anything against her. She was just busy. She was trying to raise these kids. You know what I mean? Like doing her thing, and it was rough. So I understand. And then my dad, he went into Tucson because he was working and had to try to find somewhere to live. You know what I mean? He was like, he left, like just put his stuff in his truck and was like, I can't do it no more. Yeah, so, but like I always talked to my dad. So like when things were hitting hard, like I would call and be like, "Hey, they turned the water off. Hey, we ain't got no power over here." And then he was coming from Tucson trying to come down and pay our bills, but living in his truck. So I feel a little guilty, And so I hit up one of my uncles and I just told him, "Hey, I need to make some money." And that's how I kind of got connected into the world right there of doing that. Cause like my cousins, they all used and stuff, and like they would use meth and all this other stuff. And like I was always like, I'm never gonna do that. You know what I mean? Because I would see him and I'd be like, man, he's getting shot out. Like I'm not doing that. So like but that was like my entrance into it, was just trying to make a little extra money.
Man. How old were you at that age? I
was like 14.
14.
Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, because before like I would smoke and do stuff like that, but it wasn't it wasn't like that lifestyle, you know what I mean? Like, and they did a lot of like collections and moving weight and stuff. So like I was just their guinea, you know, like I would just go and get the car. I would drive them places. I would, you know what I mean? Bundle up these things and do the, you know what I mean? Like I did all the little grunt work that they didn't want to do, and I got paid for it. So it was chill, but
and
I made my own choices, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. And what did you ever have addiction in your family growing up? Was there ever anybody that you remember that had it, like other than in your intermediate family?
It wasn't like a problem, you know what I mean? Like everybody drank.
Just normal Mexican household.
Yeah, like, you know, that kind of stuff. It wasn't seen as anything like bad, but nobody was really, it wasn't until us kids that it got into the heavier stuff.
All right. And were your brothers the same way? Like the little traviesos, or were you the only one?
They're chill, bro.
Are they?
They went to school every day, you know, like I always talk about my brother, like he's a funny dude. Like he was that kid that was over there like with the boombox making like a mixed cassette tape for his teacher, you know what I mean? And I'd be like, bro, you're a nerd, bro. You know, my older brother, he was funny like that though. And he was like always like friends with people and would talk to the teacher. And like I was coming up after him, so all of his teachers would always be like, how are you even his brother, bro? Like,
that's funny. And you guys all have the same mother and father, right?
Yeah.
It almost seems, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like, you know, the hunting, living in a smaller town, kind of handling your business. There was like, you were almost like grown for your age, even at like as a young age. You know what I mean?
Well, like my brothers never did any of it. My brothers weren't really like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They like to chill. They were like, you know, me, I was the one that would scoop my stuff up and take off and just go out in the desert and go do shit. Like I've always liked to be independent. Like I even tell people at work, I only talk to people because I get paid. You know what I mean? Like when I go home, I don't talk to people.
Yeah,
like my hobbies are hunting, fishing, chilling. Like I haven't been able to go hunting in years. I just barely got my restoration of rights, so that was pretty cool. I had to do it multiple counties. So it was pretty rough. So
that's cool though, man. God works it out, bro. You're getting out.
Eventually,
you get it, but it takes time though. For real, they were just. I heard somebody talking about how the Lord works in seasons, just like how summer turns to the fall and fall turns to winter, winter turns to spring. Like God don't move in days; He works in seasons. So you got to be extra patient sometimes for blessings to come back into your life.
Well, it's just that persistence, you know. You got to be persistent. You got to be optimistic. You gotta find the good in every situation, and remember that everything is happening for a purpose.
Yeah,
like even if it's not a purpose you like, it's still a purpose. It doesn't matter regardless. Like I say, like all that stuff that happened in my life, I went through a lot. I went through all that. I had incarceration. I had my children. I had kids that were adopted by my dad because of that, and then I had other kids, and so it was a big mix, but. Like the amount of people that I've been able to help since then, and a lot of the stuff that I've been able to put out in the community, it's almost worth the pain and the suffering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that had to happen so that this could happen. And even like you say, God, like I read my Bible, I do my stuff, and it's just like God with Judas and all that. Like, you know, He knew somebody was gonna turn, and He let it happen because He knew I have to do this suffering so that good can happen. So sometimes we have to go through some suffering for good things to happen.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I don't regret any. I regretted it for a long time. You know, I beat myself up for years about all the bullshit I put my family and everybody through. And now I see there's a purpose and a reason behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Your message now, huh?
They say a beautiful picture is developed in darkness, dog.
Mm-hmm.
That's real, man. You know what I mean? So what did your mom and father think? Did they know anything?
No, not really. Like I said, my mom wasn't really around. We just knew we had to beat her home, and we were chill, so we'd go party, we'd go do stuff. I watched over my little brother a lot. He doesn't really think so, but like the last thing I wanted to do was hang out with a bunch of kids that were 2 years younger than me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I didn't even like people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he was a real social kid. Like he liked to socialize. He had all of his friends. They wouldn't want to go party. So like I would throw them all in the back of the truck and take them out to the desert and let them go party or do whatever. And I just stayed there. Like I didn't drink. I wasn't doing anything. It was just weed at the time because with the people I was involved with too, they didn't allow you to use the heavier drugs at that time. You had to be clear-minded pretty much.
So it was a sense of independence, a sense of control, a sense of all of that. You held on to that for a while there.
Yeah, well, and everybody knew that I was a little not right in the head. You know what I mean? Like, so nobody would mess with my little brother either. So like we could go to those parties, we could go do stuff, and they knew I was right there. So nobody really messed with him. It was pretty chill.
That's cool, man. And at what age do you feel like your drug use started becoming a hindrance? When do you remember it becoming a problem?
It was when the people, like I said, that I went to some of my family and that they kind of got me connected, and then they took off to go work at another mine. And when all that happened, it was kind of like they just let me off the chain because they were the ones that were like, hey, you can't be doing this, you can't be doing that. These are the rules, you know what I mean? And so when those rules broke, I was like, shh, I'm in charge now.
Yeah.
And I just went off the chain. I just started just doing the most, and that's when it kind of got intense and everything started changing the dynamics of what I was doing.
Looking at it now with the substances, do you feel like there was something that you were trying to cover up, an emotion or something you didn't want to feel?
You know, I did a lot of different treatments, a lot of different stuff. And, you know, I think that it was really just not understanding why I was different. You know what I mean? Like, cause like I said, like my a lot of my other family, they're different too. But like my household, my brothers, you know what I mean? Like, how were we raised by the same people, same situations together, but they turned out chill. They went to college, they did all their little nerdy stuff, and then I was out there just doing my wilding out stuff, and I never really understood it. I knew that, you know, ultimately though, I think it was just that I liked the intensity of life. You know what I mean? Like I liked the lifestyle more than I did the substances. I liked guessing. I liked putting things on the line. I liked to gamble my life. You know what I mean? Like that's what it was like an adrenaline junkie more than anything.
Taking risks and doing all of those types of things.
Bending rules.
I can't remember the book. I'm trying. It's a numerous attempts, but this is like one of the few attempts that I've made to try and read the Bible in a year, right? And I was hearing a story, if it was not yesterday, it was the day before, but about somebody being blessed with the son at an old age. And I remember God telling them, like, he's going to be this little boy that you're going to have he's going to be like pretty much a travieso in the sense. He's going to be like a wild animal. He's going to be out there handling his business. And it's just so interesting. Like when you hear those parallels with life, I'm sure no one ever explained those books to you or said anything like that. Like it's hard. You just feel like you're kind of alone in that, you know what I'm saying? Growing up, and why am I different? Everyone else is doing this and doing that.
Well, I would hear it like they'd just be like, "Oh, you're dead." Like, you know, it's just, you know, you got a lot of this or a lot of, and usually it was positive. You know what I mean? Like they're just telling me you got to apply it to good. You got to, you know, and I just never wanted to.
Wow,
good was boring. You know what I mean?
Good was boring, right?
So when those rules broke, you know, everybody moved away from Oracle, and you started taking over. What was the situation with your family then? Was there a point in time where your mom and dad started realizing that there was something not right?
Oh yeah, no, they knew. I mean, I was pretty open about my stuff too. Like I wasn't too conservative about what I was doing. You know, they knew but I was working. I stayed at the same company from the time that I graduated high school till I was done. So their whole thing was, as long as you go to work, you know, like you're working, like you got to get your shit straight. Like it was when I started missing work later on that it became the real issue. Like they would always tell me that I needed to do something or I needed to get help, or like it was there, but I managed most of it. You know what I mean? Like it was different.
So working every day, up until the point where you started missing school or missing work, you know, you started calling in or whatever it was. What was that year spanned? Like what timeline are we looking at?
Oh, I mean, I worked from the time I was 28 or 2018 till 28. I worked consistently. I even worked my way up. Like when I graduated high school, they called me and I called that construction company and I was like, hey, I need a job. They were like, what can you do? I was like, I can shovel, I can swing a hammer, I can, you know, like basic stuff. And they were like, all right, we can hire you on as a laborer. And they're like, how much are you looking to make? And I said, just minimum wage. And they're like, bro, people don't come to construction to work minimum wage. They're like, that's not a thing. They're like, we'll give you $10. And I think minimum wage was like $7 at the time. And they're like, we'll give you $10.50 or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, I'll start. Like whenever you want me to start, I'll start. So I started and I worked my way up. And I kind of learned every skill I could learn. I became like tradesman. I did carpentry. I did all kinds of stuff. And then I eventually became a project manager. So I was doing all that while I was doing dope. So, I mean, it was part of my stuff too, because they gave me a company truck. I could go do my stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cops tend to not look at the company truck as much as they did everybody else. So it was just, you know.
So your work ethic and the way that you presented yourself and always being a go-getter and a hustler, it almost kind of enabled you to not see this so much as a problem on the other side over here.
Yeah, basically. And it was always the money was my justification. You know what I mean? Like even my kids, I got my little kids now, and being there for them the way I am now is different than I was for my other kids. Like my other kids, like I never met any of their school teachers because I was always at work or doing work after work. And so I never met any of their teachers. I never went to any of their open conferences. I never went to any of their play, none of that. Like I was always working or doing something. And so I missed out on a lot of that. But how I justify it is I would buy them stuff. You know what I mean? And it didn't really get to me until I got arrested the first time and my dad cleaned out my house. And he's like, bro, he took pictures of stuff and he's like, what is this stack of tablets? It's like I would buy my kids like the new tablets that would come out, you know what I mean? And then they would break them. I'd just buy another one. And so like I just started stacking them up in the closet, like where they would break their toys or whatever, or like the Power Wheels. I'd buy them the Power Wheels, and if they started messing up or the tires would wear out, I'd just buy them another one. Like it didn't need to be a birthday or Christmas. I would just bring them home stuff, and I think it was just that sideline guilt. Yeah. You know, and like my kids now, it's different. Like it's like my work, I tell them like, hey, I'm going to pick up my kid every day from school. Yeah, my partner could pick them up. She can go grab them, but I like to be there every day after school now because it's something that I missed with my other kids. So I got to give that back. But that was a lot of it. Like when that time started slipping, was that I right at that arrest is when it started going bad. Because once I got arrested, it changed everything for me. That's when I started missing work after that because I was trying to come back up.
Wow.
Do you think marijuana kind of opened the gates for other drugs, or was it mainly behavior, or was it like you trying to hustle, making money? I'm trying to kind of figure out, was it?
I think it was the cocaine that opened up my drug world. You know,
it's a hell of a
cocaine
drug.
It
is, bro. It got me, bro.
That's the one that got you?
It did, yeah, because it just changed everything. It changed the dynamic of the way my mind worked. Because like you said, the work ethic, you know what I mean? Like I like to work hard and put in the most. So
that shit makes you feel like you put a cape on. Huh?
I know, right? So I started doing a little bit more and a little bit more and you know, and then one day I thought these people were doing some coke, and it was G, and I did a fat line of it, and then I was spun out for 4 days, and I was like, that was amazing. Like, look at all this shit I got done. Like,
that's
I got
crazy.
so much done, and then it just kind of spiraled out of that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily say I think it was the weed, because I smoked weed from when I was 14 till I was almost like 18, and like I would do coke every now and then, but it wasn't like a regular thing. Yeah. It was just here and there. You know what I mean? But the weed was like, it was chill. It never like open. I always knew my own boundaries with the other stuff, but that's like I said, I had those other people in my life that were like, you can't be doing that.
Yeah, for real.
So I would do just a little bit just so that they couldn't tell, though. I couldn't let them catch me.
Yeah, no.
Like, I was more afraid of them than I was the cops. So it was like,
I could relate a lot to your story. I could relate more to the part where like we're being raised from the same household, but our way of thinking is a little bit different. Rebels, traviesos, and breaking rules and all that stuff. And I could feel like if I was different than other people, no? Yeah. Especially from the people of my age. Like when I was 15, 16, I really didn't like to hang out with people my same age because they were kind of different. So I could relate a lot to what you're saying. Yeah. I was just trying to figure out, was it mainly the way you thought or the way you behaved that was more troubling than anything that you think, or was it the drugs that kind of opened that gate? But it sounds like you were already messed up a little bit before you did drugs, bro.
I mean, I was all ADD'd out, you know what I mean? So like, I was like that, but like you said too, I hung out with a lot of older people because kids didn't have money. You know what I mean? None of the other 15-year-olds had money, and 14-year-olds, they didn't have money like that. Yeah. So like I was hanging out with all the older guys that I was delivering to. And so like I would deliver to them and I'd kick back with them for a little bit, you know what I mean? And then those were like the people I interacted with on a regular. I only had my one friend that I hung out with that was my age, and that was it.
I can relate a lot to. I remember when I was younger, there was gangs was a thing back then, cholos and like representing hoods and corners and at the neighborhood I lived, I remember that they would invite me, and I didn't find any pleasing in hanging around in the corner trying to represent something that wasn't mine. Like this neighborhood is not mine. This corner is not
Yeah.
mine. Like my thinking was like, I want to make money. I want to sell you drugs or something. You know, always kind of thinking about money and trying to have things that I never had, because these cholos will have Cortez or Dickies, and I couldn't support any Cortez or Dickies. Like, you know, like I wanted money to at least get me some nice shoes, you know, or get me some nice pants. So I was thinking wasting time and hanging around with these people and just not doing nothing wasn't attractive to me. I wanted to be doing more of the adrenaline versus something where I could get $1 in my pocket. You know what I mean?
Man.
And I could see a little bit that we thought a little bit the same.
Yeah, well, and luckily that was something else that saved me. Is those guys that I was kicking it with, they said no drugs, no gang affiliations. You can't do any of that kind of stuff because it limits their business.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're associated with one, you can't necessarily go and start dealing with the other one. You know what I mean? They might not like each other. But we could play all sides of the fence because we weren't affiliated with nobody. So we could do basically business wherever we wanted.
Wow. That's crazy. That whole time period of like when gangs were really big in the community. Like, I remember that because I was kind of like a nerd, bro, growing up. And I just walk by and fools be sweating me for no reason. What the fuck did I do? Yeah, man, I've had conversations about my kids with bullying, because my kids are like, you know, ooh, this girl's bullying me. I'm like, dude, no, that is not the same shit. Trust me. Have you ever had your ass kicked by a bunch of people just because you were fat? And like, dude, I used to have all kinds of crazy stuff happen
or
to me.
Or because what you're wearing, right?
Yeah, that's it. Just walking down the street, what's up, cuz, or whatever. Yeah. It's like, damn, it's crazy shit. But I could see, you know, looking at it like the whole picture, how that would be something that you wouldn't want associated like in the street shit, you know, when you're really in it.
Mm-hmm. And I tell my kids that too. Like, I always sound like an old guy to them. You know what I mean? Like, now I sound like the way my dad used to sound, you know? And I see it all the time. But I tell them that too. I was like, you know, when we used to get in fights in school, they used to make you shake hands. Nobody got expelled. No cops were called. Like, you would be scrapping. A teacher would come up and grab you from, you know what I mean? Shake hands. You guys good? And it's, yeah, my bad. Like,
that's it.
What about your day? You know, it wasn't nothing big, but now it's a big deal.
Man. So I wanted to touch on something that you said a little bit ago. You said that you were doing pretty good until you got arrested. What year are we looking at?
Let's see. Well, I got arrested a lot before that, but it wasn't like arrested. Like, a lot of it was me fighting with people, and they would come up and they'd give you like disorderly conduct or mutual combats, or I had a bunch of those because I had to get my fingerprint clearance. So I pulled all my police reports, and some of them were funny though, you know, like even like with my cousins, you know, like there was one where like they read the cops called and they said there was people fighting. People called the cops on us, you know what I mean? Because they were fighting in the street. And then the cop said that in his report, like when he was pulling up, that he could see two people hugging and talking. So like by the time they got there, we were already cool again.
Yeah.
Like, you know? And it's like, and so like those were a lot of my arrests. But the one was I got in a DUI hit and run, and then I ran. You know what I mean? Like after that, when the cops tried to get me, I booked it, and then so like it was a big deal. And like I went from one county into another, and I got arrested, and then they took me to jail, and then I paid my bond. And that was a rough one too, because it was inexpensive. It was $5,000 cash only. I had to pay that, and then I had to go to a self-paid rehab because I had no insurance. I was trying to get out of the case, so I went to rehab. That's what they told me. They said, "Get out of here, go to rehab, go to your court case from the treatment center." And so I did, and when I did that, I went back and I went to court, and they said that they were doing like without prejudice or whatever. So they had 7 years to charge me, blah 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 blah, because they had to wait for the blood results. So I left treatment and went back to work, but I had to come back up because it was rough, you know what I mean? And I immediately got arrested right after that again. Like right after that, they picked me up on another warrant because once your fingerprints hit the system,
that's it.
So they picked me up right after that. And that time I spent a few months in there. And the problem is I owned a house, I had cars, I had leases, I had, you know what I mean? Because like I said, I was a materialistic person at the time, so I had all those things, but they can't pay your bills. Like, people can't pay your bills for you. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't just let anybody walk in and pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
You know, nobody could just walk in the bank and pay for my car loan.
And you were young too, having a mortgage, all of those things.
Well, I bought my house when I was 21.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I think I was 25 when that happened. So it was just, I came out. My house had a sign on the front door for a foreclosure. The cars were towed out of the yard. Like, all my stuff was gone. I was locked out of my own house. Like I broke in and took some of my shit back, but I mean, it wasn't like that, you know what I mean? And so I had to try to come back up. And that's when I started getting wild, because I started doing more dope, started trying to get more things moving, started trying to do stuff back on its own. And it's rough when you're gone for that long, because people don't wait to get high until you come home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So business was gone. A lot of the people, like I was dealing with people that were using bigger quantities. So it was just like I had like 3 or 4 of the same people that I was dealing with on a regular basis. I would get my good amount and then I would break them off and like that, you know what I mean? And so it was a chill thing that I had going. But by the time I got out, the other, like 2 of them had gone into jail. So there was only 1 left and he was getting it for somebody else. And then I started dealing in smaller amounts. And that's when it got wild, because it just changed my whole dynamic of life, because I didn't have it the easy way anymore. I had to actually put in like a lot of work. I had to go and hustle and find people, and like selling 10s and 20, like it was not the lifestyle for me.
Yeah.
Because I was greedy and it wasn't enough. You know what I mean? Like, It just wasn't. And so my mind's changed a lot at that moment. And that was probably my biggest fall. You know what I mean? Is in that moment, because I started missing the work. I started disrespecting people. I started demanding things, you know what I mean? Like, because I felt like I was entitled. So I turned that into me.
Yeah.
And it was no longer the respectful, like, you know, because I was very respectful before. I was, like I said, the same people. I would go do my work. I would, you know, It was very structured, and it wasn't structured after that. So, I mean, like, I had to stay high, and then I had to also be able to deal to other people. And when you're dealing those small amounts, it was barely enough for me to stay high. I wasn't making any money on it.
And when you say, were you ever like, was it opiates or was it always G?
Was it anything, bro?
Anything, really?
Anything I could get my greedy hands on. If somebody said they can move it, I was on it. You know what I mean?
I mean, but like as far as using, same thing. You would use whatever too.
Yeah.
Really, there was never no reservations or fear or anything like that. It was just like bring the shit on. See how this makes me feel.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I was like a scientist, bro. What if I mix these two together?
Right.
A little bit more of this, a little less of that. Let's see how this works.
Wow. And when did you start having kids, bro?
I had my first kid when I was 21. That's why I bought the house.
Oh, okay.
So I had my oldest son, and when we found out that she was pregnant, I was like, well, I guess I got to grow up. Let's go buy a house and some cars. Like, you know?
Let's get in debt. That's real. We all think that way.
But it was like a banging deal. Like, I think about it now. Like, I just bought my house now.
Jeez,
it was like $220. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I bought that house. It was a 3-bedroom. 2-bath with a garage. It had a yard. It had an apple tree in the back and an apricot tree. It was nice, you know. Had a built-in fireplace. $80,000. You know what I mean?
Wow, man, that was such a different.
My house payment was like $500.
Jeez, that's crazy. I know people's house payments still like that. I'm like, dude, you got it at right when the market crashed and they bought a house, like a $300,000 house for $100,000 or even less or something.
I bought it right as it crashed. It was in 2009. 2008, 2009, right there. It was that moment.
Wow, you still have the mortgage?
No, they foreclosed it.
Oh, okay, that's right. I didn't know, maybe you were able to get back at it. No. So, dang, man. Okay, so you had your first, this was your son, you said, at 21. Were you ever married or anything like that?
No, I don't really do that.
You don't do that? Okay, hey, that's fine. That's fine. And so during that time, it started getting pretty. You seem like you're a very structured person. I get, like a hard worker, and it's so interesting to me because it's always those people that are more. I mean, I know you had your substance issues, but it seemed like you were more addicted to the lifestyle of getting the money and hustling. It's amazing how much it can tie in, like with like sobriety, being even sober, like being in the position that you are now. I'm sure that now that your mentality and where you're at, spiritually and mentally and stuff, now that those have all aligned, I'm sure it propels you in a whole different direction, like a different type of hustle you never had before. It
is, but it's different. You know what I mean? Like you have to change your perspectives and your mindsets. Like even like you reference the Bible, and it's all about these parables and these metaphors and these, you know what I mean, little things. And that's kind of what I run my life on. I'm structured. I like to have a structure, but I don't like people to tell me what my structure is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like I live my life on a lot of those little sayings and a lot of those little little parables of what you have to do. You know what I mean? Just like you said, the parable of the good son, the parables of, you know what I mean? Like they have all those. And so like I structure my life based on a lot of those expectations, right? Expectations lead to frustrations. I remind myself, never have expectations of anyone or anything. That's not how it works. A boundary is different. Like, you know what I mean? And so I have all these little things that...
That's so hard, man.
That remind me of my rules and my structures because it keeps me in line. I need something to keep me in line and driven in that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if I don't have that, I'm bound to do anything, bro. I'll go open 3 businesses tomorrow. You know what I mean? If I feel I'm ready.
The extreme.
Yeah. Well, like my thing is even when I was working and I was doing the stuff, like I was always like, I'm gonna buy me a trailer park and a car wash laundromat, bro. Those are like low maintenance, easy money, bro. Like, you know, and I was always like, I just need to get a few of those rolling and I'll be straight.
Wow.
Like
hustler, bro. Just born and raised. And was faith growing up? Did you have any sense of that growing up with your mother and father?
Oh, you know, so my dad worked at the mine. My mom worked full time. So we were always at my Nana's house. So me and all my cousins were always at Nana's house. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it went. Yeah. And Nana is a very Catholic woman. You know what I mean? Like, so she would have us there at the church. We had to go to catechism every Wednesday. We helped to clean after church. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We did all that kind of stuff. Like,
did you like it?
I mean, it was chill. Like usually I ADD'd off somewhere, you know what I mean? Like I was never really there like that. I'd always disappeared, but...
Bro, you saying that I lost my grandmother in 2020, but I mean, I always think about that. Like my Nana was a spiritual woman, bro. Like she had her little corner with all her pictures of all her santitos and all her family members that she lost. And I always think, man, I'm like, man, who's praying for me now, bro? Like she was the one, you know what I mean? The matriarch. So that's interesting. I mean, thank you for filling us in with that, because a lot of similarities in the story with that with me, with my grandmother. So you started dealing with this DUI. It's crazy to even hear you say that, because Arizona, I know, is not a state that you want to fuck around with when it comes to drinking and driving.
Well, it wasn't even drinking; it was Xanny bars.
Oh man!
So you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, those get you pretty messed up too.
Yeah, and I can tell. So, like, I'll tell you like the little thing that happened from there to they got me to the Sally, right?
Okay.
And so when I got arrested for that DUI, they told me without prejudice, they let me go. I went back to work. I started doing my thing. I actually wrecked another company truck. That was in the company truck. That DUI was in the company truck. So I actually wrecked another one. And they basically told me when I was in jail, hey, you can't drive our cars no more. You know what I mean?
Why would they say such a thing?
I know, right?
They don't trust you.
Assholes, right? No, so like they did those. So I went through that. I got arrested. And like it's even a little fuzzy to me, but they picked me up on warrant after warrant after warrant. And I was a troublemaker, you know what I mean? Like I did a lot of stuff. And when my mindset changed, I started doing all kinds of crazy stuff, bro. Like I was pulling licks. I was, you know what I mean? Like I was like doing all this other stuff that, like, you know, I don't want to say too much about, but I had a very entitled attitude and I was demanding that people like respected me in a certain way, to where it pushed a lot of people away from me because I was a little off. Like I was very unpredictable. Nobody knew what I was going to do. And my neighbor, he was a sheriff, and like him and his wife were there or whatever, but like he lived in another house, and it was weird. But one day we were doing dope in the car, and he was like, hey, you need to go get some help, right? And I was like, well, I'm about to help myself to his shit. So I robbed him, and I
wow.
And he knew it was me because literally, like, he came home like, you know, an hour later, and his shit was all gone.
You're wearing his shoes. What happened?
Yeah. And so they picked me up on that warrant, and they arrested me, and that one was the second to last one. So then when I went through that, though, it was rough because my mom's their neighbor. So now I had a restraining order on the house. And so I couldn't go to my mom's no more. I couldn't do none of that anymore. I had with the baby mama, the first one, I couldn't be in contact with her because she was my co-defendant. And I was already on another thing. And so they put me on probation for that. And so we weren't supposed to be having contact, but we did, you know what I mean? And I actually lived with my Nana for a little while because it was the only house I could go to.
Yeah.
I lost everything because I got incarcerated again. And so, because in that time I had lost the first house, I rented a second house and bought all new stuff at the second house. And when I got arrested, I lost that one because I was renting. So they kicked me out.
Wow.
And, you know, like that time too, when I call my dad, because I always call my dad, you know, he was my guy, you know, I called him and I was like, hey, I said, I'm back in here. I was like, I'm definitely going to prison on this one. I was like, this is my probation violation. You know what I mean? Like, I'm already on probation for this first one. I said, I'm definitely going to prison. I said, can you clean out the house? And he's like, no, I'm just going to call the church and give them the keys and have them clean it out. So he just gave all my stuff away, and I got out like 7 days later.
Oh, for real.
And the only thing I had was my truck.
And why didn't your dad, like, was he trying to put a little bit of tough love on you? Is that why he did that, or he just didn't want to deal with it?
He had his own life. You know, he was taking care of my kids. He was working. He didn't have any kids in the house for years. Then all of a sudden, he had my 2 little ones with him.
Yeah.
Because before, when I would get arrested, she was at home. But this time, they arrested both of us.
Okay.
And so we were both in there. So somebody had to take the kids. And so he took the kids. He had them there at the house. So it was just, he didn't have time. He didn't know, he was trying to adapt too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just didn't want to have to go through all that stuff again and see all the dope in the house, or he didn't know what he's going to, because the first time he cleaned out my house, he was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, I had liquor bottles everywhere. I had foils. I had, you know, and he was just like, you can't be doing like life like this.
Man.
And so that was the next warrant that I got picked up on. And so when I got picked up on that one, I went to jail again, and he cleaned out that house. And then they literally picked me up a week later and on a warrant from my Nana's house. And I had to call him again and be like, hey, I need you to go to Nana's house. I got a bag in the closet. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want my Nana or one of the kids to find it. So I had to have him go get it out. And so my dad's been through a lot. You know, it was to the point too where I'd call my dad from the jail, and it would be like the first phone call, that collect one. You know what I mean? And he would answer, and he'd be like, hey, I'm going to put money on your books. I'm putting money on your phone. Don't call me from this phone number again. It's $10 a call. I got money on you already. So by the time that I even went upstairs, I already had money on my phone and money on my book.
You already knew how to kind of...
he did. He had to learn how to navigate. You know what I mean? My dad visited me one time. He was the only visitor. No, my grandpa did too. So my dad visited me one time. That was it. Because he said it crushed him to see me in there. But it was wild too, because he's visiting me. We're in like a dorm style place, you know, and like it was actually 2F&G. That was the first time, because he never seen me in Florence. It was 2F&G over here. And I was in there with these 2 guys that were from Oracle, and my dad like coached their baseball team and shit. You know?
Shit.
And I was like,
what's
hey,
up, coach?
yeah.
Okay.
I was like, hey, Dad. I was like, check it out. Petey's here. You know, and he's like, I can't. He's like, I can't visit. So he didn't visit me, and I understand that. And then the last time, this is the grace of God, though, right? This is how wild it happened. So I had 3 arrests back to back to back, and every time the judge was like, you're arresting him for a crime that was before he got put on probation. I'm just going to reinstate his probation since he hasn't really violated his probation. These are crimes from before. So I got released every time back on probation. And this PO, she was my PO for a long time, because even when I get those misdemeanors, sometimes like I'd have to go do like supervisions and stuff. You know what I mean? And we only had 2 POs for the whole area right there. So she knew me. So like I was always same one every time. Wow. And she was a really cool lady. She never gave up on me, but I ran every time.
Really?
Every time they let me out, she's like, are you going to do it this time or what? She's like, last time you didn't even check in. And I was like, no, I got this. Like, I'm good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and she's like, well, I want you to go to IOP. So I was like, whatever. So I would go to their IOP, try to stay out. You know what I mean? But I go high. They knew it too. Like, the dude always called me out on it every time. But I'm a hard worker. You know what I mean? Like, I like to do those completions. So like, I went all the way through that, and I had 1 class left on that IOP, and I got arrested down here at the casino. So I went to the casino, won money. I was all happy. You know what I mean? I left. I got high.
That's crazy how the enemy works too.
Right,
blessing you with all this money, like when you're in a vulnerable state. That shit's crazy.
He got me. So like I did. I went. I pumped gas at the gas station from the Soul. That first one, I pumped gas. And I was already there. I was at the casino for like 2 days. And then I went to the next gas station, and I was like, did I get gas? Because my gas gauge didn't work. And I was like, I better get some gas. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I got high again, and I passed out in the car right there on Valencia on the freeway. And I woke up to the fire department and the police knocking at my door because it was locked. And, you know, I had spoon, paraphernalia, everything.
Right there at the QT?
On my lap. No, it was at the Circle K. The QT wasn't even a thing really yet. So... You know, I had that all on my lap. So I was like, damn. So the safe. I had a safe in my truck because the truck was in my dad's name, so they needed a warrant to search. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I left it open, had my ID in there, all my drugs, a scale, all kinds of stuff. I got interrogated down there on Ajo, and I didn't say a word the whole time. From the point they opened my door to the point that I went to the jail, I didn't say one word. Nothing. I just acted like I didn't speak, like I was a mute. You know,
Like I was on mute.
Yeah, I just did some shoulder shrugs. You know,
Yeah.
they were like, "What do you do? Like, where you come?"
Yeah.
And I was sleeping a lot, you know, but it saved me in the end
Yeah.
because those detectives were so just agitated and they were jerks. You know what I mean? They didn't treat people like real people. I had my hands handcuffed to a wall for 24 hours, you know, and so when I went to the jail, it saved me because the judge was like, "Why are they doing this?" He's like, they booked me with 26 felony charges. There was like 6 different sales charges. They hit me for a sales for every single drug that I had on me. Sales charge, like paraphernalia. You know what I mean? All of it was just all on there. And so when I went into the jail, the judge was like, "Why are they doing that?" And he looked at the paperwork and he said that you're being uncooperative because you wouldn't talk. They tell you you're right to remain silent. He's like, they can't hold that against you. And he's like, and where were you? This was over 24 hours ago. He's like, where have you been?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know why they're doing this to me.
Oh, judge.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Now you talk.
Yeah, and I just told him, I said, I don't know why. I didn't say nothing. And he was just like, no. He's like, you know what? This is wrong. He's like, I'm just going to charge you with 1 possession and 1 paraphernalia. I was like, okay. You know, I was like, I'm still going to go to prison because I'm on 3 other probations and I just got more felony charges over here. So I ended up talking to specialists. I called my PO. My dad put money on my phone. So I called the PO, told her what happened, said, hey, whatever you got to do, let's do it. You know, and she says, no, I'm not going to violate you yet. She said, let's make sure that you're actually formally charged before anything happens. She said, if you get out of there, call me. You know what I mean? They're probably going to extradite you, this and that. And so it was a real uncertain time in my life right there. Because I was really preparing just to go to prison. And it was a long time, too, because the charges that I had were 4s and 2 6s. So, I mean, and they were for that other stuff. So that judge was not very lenient on me for hitting the house that I did. So, I went in, I did that stuff. The judge was amazing. You know, I had Ms. Godoy over here, and then I transferred over to Judge Felds, and it was cool. I mean, it was the nicest court system I ever seen in my life, you know, because they had that brand new prop. What was it, Prop 202, the first time drug conviction?
No.
Yeah, so that's a first time drug conviction's automatic probation in Pima County.
Really?
They have a proposition for it. It was beautiful. I loved it because all my other felonies were trafficking, the robbery, the DUI. So like I had those charges, but no drug charges.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, Prop 202, probation. So they put me on probation. And when they sent me back to Pinell County, they extradited me back to Pinell County. And when I got there, they were ready to hit me for 10 years.
Jeez, man.
And the prosecutor told the judge, hey, you can't charge him with any of this kind of stuff because Pima County already sentenced him for everything.
Wow.
So you can't hold it against him because it's like a double jeopardy. They couldn't do none of that. So she said, you know what? For police contact, 60 days in jail. So I got the 60 days in jail. My PO, like I said, was amazing because I get out. She's like, you got to check in. You got to drop. You got to do your stuff, right? And I was like, yeah, I got this. You know, she's like, you need rehab? And I was like, absolutely not. You know what I mean?
No.
Like I've been to CBI. I went to River Source. I went to... I don't even remember the other name of the other one, but I was only there for like a day because I left right away. But, you know, so I was like, nah, treatment's not for this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got this. I can do it. Not a problem. So I went and I didn't do my stuff, didn't do anything. And one day she calls me and says, hey, you need to check in or I'm arresting you tomorrow.
Wow.
And I said, all right. So I went and I checked in and took my bottle of fake pee, you know what I mean? Like I always did. And I peed in their little cup and they said, it's not hot enough. I was like, what you
it's
mean?
It's fucking cold out here, bro.
Yeah. I was like, I think I'm sick, bro. Like, I don't know. Like, but it wasn't hot enough. So she made me wait there. I sat at the probation it's the sheriff's office, but probation's inside. So you have to go into the sheriff's department check in with your PO and you pee in their bathroom. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't like a task or a dropping place, you know? So I went in, peed in their cup, said it wasn't hot enough. I sat on that table and I drew on the back of one of the check-in sheets, I drew this nice little horse, you know what I mean? Didn't drop for him at all. And then the next, she let me go because she's like, still don't got to pee? I was like, no. I was like, I drink 4 bottles of water. I don't know. You know, still don't got to pee. So she let me go. She said, all right, well, I'm going to have you check in a week. We're going to see what happens. She knocked on my window at like 4 a.m, bro. And I was all gacked out. So I was like, you know, pop the blinds real quick. You know what I mean? Right
They're
there.
probably already all
wide awake. Yeah. Wide awake
broken.
at 4 a.m. And she came in and she was talking. And I was like, I just got to wait him out. You know what I mean? Because she wanted me to drop there at my Nana's house. And I was like, I just got to wait him out.
Yeah.
They'll leave. You know, they got to eat. They got to sleep. They got to do things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hell no. My Nana's over there making them breakfast and shit. I was like,
Coffee.
Yeah. And then I was like, all right. So I peed in her cup and I was like, yeah, it's good. Just let me know. You know what I mean? I'm good. They left. I called my dad. I said, hey, I'm running. Like, I'm leaving the state this time. I was like, they ain't catching me.
Jeez.
You know, my dad's like, no, he's like, that's bullshit. He's like, you know what? He's like, you call your PO. He's like, everything you put me through, you call that PO and you see if she'll give you one more chance. Tell her you want to go to rehab. You're doing that for everything I've done for you. And I was like, all right, I can do that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You do. Because if I go back to jail, I need you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, so.
Your dad put up those boundaries.
Oh, like, I felt bad for him because even when I got extradited to Pinell County, they told me I was getting released that day and to go check in with Pinell County. And then when I got to release, they didn't release me. And so, like, my dad had already seen the court, so he knew I was getting out that day. And so I could see my dad through the jail, through that little window at the jail. I could see his truck out in the parking lot. But there was nothing I could do, you know, to tell him that I wasn't getting out.
Yeah.
Because they put me back in there. So he sat out there for almost 5 hours outside of the jail, just sitting in his truck, middle of summer, just waiting, bro. And so he's always been there. So when he said give him that time, I was like, cool. I called my PO and I said, hey, it was like I needed to call her the same day. I called her 2 days later.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I was like debating, you know what I mean? Do I run? Do I do it? Who do I call? What if I tell her? What if she's already did it? Like, this automatic, like everything was running through my head.
Yeah.
So like 2 days later, I called her and I was like, hey, it's going to be dirty. I was like, I'd rather go to rehab. I was like, I can't, I'm not willing to go to jail. Cause even when I was in front of that judge, she was pissed. I've never seen a judge act that way, but she threw paperwork, bro. Like, she threw my folder.
Really?
Yeah, because she was so mad I didn't get to prison. And she even told me, she says, if I ever see you back in here, I'm charging you on every single one of these cases separately, and it's all going to be flat time.
Damn.
And so I was a little scared to go back in front of her, you know what I mean? So I was like, you know, I'm just going to face it now. I called the PO and I said, hey, I'm dirty. She said, yeah, you know what? She says, I was giving you some time to call. She says, I haven't turned it in yet. I was like, that's pretty nasty, bro. Like, you're just holding on to my pee. Like, that's the first thought that ran in my head, that she was still holding on to my cup of pee. You know what I mean? And she laughed at me a little bit, and she's like, hey, I'm going to go by right now. And I was like, are you arresting me? I was like, just tell me now, because the last time they arrested me, they took me in, like, basketball shorts with no socks. Like, it was rough. You know what I mean? Like, I was in a tank top, basketball shorts, no socks. Like, it was the worst. So I was like, let me get dressed, at least. And she was like, I'm not arresting you. She had me sign a paper. My dumb ass is stupid. I don't read things. She just said, this is a paper. It's for the Salvation Army, 6-month program, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, can't do 6 months. Like,
too much.
I was like, yeah. I was like, how about 30 days? I start like negotiating. You know what I mean? And she says, all right. She says, you do 30 days and I'll let you out. You just got to sign the paper. So I signed it. I just signed for 6 months though. So I went down to the Salvation Army and I was real ignorant still. I was still getting high. And I thought when she said you have to turn yourself into the Salvation Army in 9 days, that was supposed to be your time to detox. Like, I didn't know that though. I thought that normal people just get high before they go to rehab.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, I went and I got as high as I could. You know what I mean? Like, I did every drug
for 9 days.
Yeah. And Dale was the intake specialist over there.
Wow.
And I went in there and he's like checking me in and he's like, hey, he's like, okay, cool. And he's like, let's go drop. And I was like, okay. So I went and I peed in his cup and he's like, bro, he's like, you're dirty for everything. Are you serious? And he's like yelling at me. And I was like, hey, bro, like, who are you talking to right now? Like, you need to calm down. And he was like, no, he's like, you can't come in here and you can't come back either. And I was like, that's some bullshit. Like, you asked me if I had anything on me, so I pulled out my stuff, like, you know what I mean? And I had like some rigs and some dope and stuff. And like, he's like, you're bringing drugs in here? And I was like, why didn't, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know. Like, that's literally how my mind worked, is I didn't know that normal people don't just carry their drugs with them everywhere they go, even to rehab. I thought it was just normal. And so like, it didn't work out. I left. I started walking down 6th. And of course, my dad was with me, you know what I mean? And he started talking to Dale. And he convinced Dale into giving me a chance and letting me go to detox at the homeless shelter. And so my dad came up, scooped up, picked me up. I was getting high right in front of the door too. And I felt bad about that later because it's one of those tinted doors.
Yeah.
So it's one way. Sitting there getting high thinking that they can't see through the door. And there's a whole rehab in there watching me shoot up on the steps. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I felt really bad about that later, but like at the time I didn't know. So my dad pulled up on the side of the 6th on like the shoulder of the road, talking through his truck window at me, yelling at me to throw that in the trash and that he's taking me to the shelter. Yeah. And I went and I detoxed at that shelter. And these are some people that were like instrumental to my life, you know, like Dale giving me that other opportunity. Then when I get to the shelter, there's this lady named Yoli. And she was amazing too, because I was detoxing in a homeless shelter, bro. Like, I don't know if you know how homeless shelters work, but during the day, the air conditioning turns off.
Really?
Yeah, so it gets hot as hell in there. You know what I mean? And then they wanted me to be doing community service to stay there. So I'm detoxing, trying to sweep, you know what I mean? Like a 20,000 square foot bit. Like, this building is huge, bro. Upstairs and downstairs, sweeping. Just a regular old little broom, push broom.
Man.
And so like, and I was detoxing bad. I was throwing up everywhere. I couldn't eat, you know what I mean? But Yoli was amazing because she was like sneaking me in Gatorades and like,
that's cool,
hooking me up with like a banana here and there. You know what I mean? And I was like, it literally saved me a lot though. And I would go stand at the edge of the fence and smoke cigarettes. And she told me, if you cross the gate, I can't let you back in. So of course me, you know, I'd stand there and I'd put the tips of my toes right at the line where the gate was at, and I just stand there and smoke a cigarette. And she was like, she told me later, she's like, I used to watch you in the camera, just praying, don't let him go.
Man.
Don't let him cross that line. Because I would just debate it every day. Yeah. Every day. And that's how I got into the Salvation Army, and it was wild because I was there just to get past my PO. I just needed to get through those 6 months so I could start using fake pee again. That was my whole plan.
What's going on, guys? I'm so sorry to have to do it to you, but we're going to have to stop this episode right here. Thank you guys so much for listening, and make sure you tune in next week for part 2 of this week's episode. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Much love. God bless. Peace. What's going on, everybody? This is Booda from the ARCast, and I just wanted to thank you for checking out this week's episode. It means a lot, and if you could share it with a friend or a loved one, somebody in need in recovery, or maybe somebody who just needs that little bit of extra positivity in their life, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you would like to join us here on the ARCast, either in the studio live or online, hit us up. The links are down in the show notes of this episode, and on there, you can find direct links to our main website here at Americas Rehab Campus and all of our social media platforms. Follow us. We keep the posts positive and motivational, focused on recovery, health, and wellness. As you know, in this modern day and age, we need as much love as possible, y'all. And as always, if you or somebody you know is in need of substance abuse treatment, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're open 24 hours a day, and our direct phone number is 1-833-272-7342. Once again, that phone number is 1-833-272-7342. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. Much love and God bless. Peace.